Hello, hello. Still here. Still in front of the fireplace. Too hot to light. Your weather's hanging on. Double bubble today. Double bubble. It's the same gear. And the same cup of tea. Half drunk. I'm only half drunk, Your Honour. Company branding. Yeah? Only the Ace of Hearts can save me now. Right. Chapters 11 and 12. Let's get straight into it. On the high street, Douglas could not believe his eyes. He cautiously slowed his pace as he approached a row of shops, not because he was now opposite the police station, where unbeknown to him he was being lauded as Stevenson's most wanted. Not that he would have cared about that. He was walking cautiously because he didn't want to spook the dog, the nosy little shit that had given him away earlier, when he was moments away from getting it on with Daisy. The dog had taken a hit to the nose earlier from the shed door, and Douglas hoped it didn't recognise him and start barking. Then he remembered, feeling the lump in his back pocket and smiling. Dogs were basically stupid, Douglas believed. Although they acted like they loved you or showed some genuine affection, all they were usually after was food. "I hope you like sausage rolls," he said in a low voice, eyeing up the tethered dog lying sedately in the shade of the newsagents. He had to be careful. Douglas was reckless, but he wasn't stupid, and were he to be given away now with the police station directly opposite, it would be curtains for sure. They'd be on him like a King Charles Spaniel on a sausage roll, he thought, looking at the dog and smirking. Douglas walked slowly, passing the garage where he occasionally got petrol for his generator. A man he didn't recognise was filling up a beige Skoda, but apart from that all was quiet. He looked in the window, seeing the solitary, lazy figure of the garage's owner, Gary. He was slumped behind the counter reading a newspaper. No customers were present among the videos, pick and mix and car accessories. Perfect, Douglas thought, gliding stealthily past, reaching into his pocket for the warm, crumbling pastry of the sausage roll he liberated from Colin Blunsden's shed. The dog, thankfully, was still oblivious to Douglas's presence. He peered in through the bottom corner of the butcher's window, his already pounding heart rate increasing as he saw the black shape of Reverend Bowen. The nosy cowered back to the window and was deep in conversation with his former employer. Eric Bumstead's eyesight was poor, as the thick-rimmed glasses and scarred index finger on his left hand would attest to, and he did not see Douglas lurking by the window. Given his poor eyesight, combined with the array of lethal implements he wielded daily in the shop, it was a surprise that the butcher had not lost more of his anatomy. Douglas recalled the day that Eric chopped the top of his finger off. Bumstead had hacked it off with a cleaver whilst butchering a beef carcass out the back. He remembered being fascinated by all the blood and panic and the manic efforts made to preserve the detached finger. Lucky they had so much ice to freeze the finger immediately, making reattachment an uncomplicated procedure later on. Bumstead would forever be ribbed by the patrons up at the Crafty Digit for his injury, with threats to change the picture on the pub sign frequently voiced. Mandy and Donna had been drafted in to mind the shop while their father was up at the hospital having his finger sewn back on. Douglas had used the opportunity to slope off, leaving his not-so-secret admirers to run the show. He left that afternoon with 2 packs of sausages, 3 sirloin steaks, and the blood-stained meat cleaver responsible for separating hand and finger. Thankfully for Douglas, Reverend Bowen's conversation continued. He felt that as long as she stayed with her back to him, he could remain undetected. He glanced over the road a little nervously at the police station. All quiet there, it seemed. He had to walk past the butcher's window to get to the dog tied up outside the newsagent, with the no doubt still irate Mr. Qureshi lurking within. He backed away, standing with his back to the wall, pulling the sausage roll from his pocket. The dog raised its head from its lazy doze, appearing to detect the scent of the stale snack almost immediately. Fuck it, now or never, he thought. As he walked past the window in one smooth motion, he stooped down to the dog, holding the sausage roll out. Moses greedily began nibbling on it, as Douglas fumbled at the lead, trying to undo it from the swing sign. He untangled it easily enough. Mercifully, Moses did not seem too perturbed by his sudden appearance, nor did there seem to be any trace of recognition. The greedy dog was only interested in his sausage roll, proving Douglas's earlier theory correct. "Good boy," Douglas said in hushed tones as the dog began tucking into the sausage roll. "Good nosy, snooping, yappy boy," he continued, stroking the animal's chin and noticing the collar Moses wore, identical in design to that of his soon-to-be former owners. Thankfully, the dog made no sound, and the small metal name tag that dangled from it did not jangle too much, not enough to be detected anyway. He thought it best to get away as quickly as possible. The dog had already devoured half of the sausage roll. Douglas knew that if he wanted to keep it quiet, he was going to need more food. He stood up, being sure to keep clear of the butcher's window, and assessed his options. He pocketed what was left of the sausage roll, keeping it as incentive for the dog. It whined quietly as they began to walk away from the butcher's. There was more food back at the shed, he thought, and more booze. But was it stupid to go back there so soon? Who cares, he thought, licking his lips, suddenly very thirsty. He looked down at the dog and smiled. "So, you want to come get slaughtered with me then, shitbag?" Chapter 12. Entering the beer garden, Trudy Ryan began to upend the cardboard carton of her orange Calippo. "Ab, ab, ab," Butch cried, holding his hand to the slowly rising packaging, lowering it down and safely away from her mouth. "Don't drink all the good shit at the bottom, Trudy. I've got plans for that," he said, holding on to his own carton. "Go grab a bench," he said, relieving her of the cardboard packaging and waving her away. Butch walked towards the hatch that served the patrons in the beer garden. Finn followed on faithfully behind. "Stick a couple of voddies in there, would you please, Pat, my love?" Butch asked, holding out the 2 orange cartons. Patricia Wilkes, co-owner of the Crafty Digit, duly obliged, taking the tapered cartons from Butch, grinning at the Kiwi's odd request, adding the shot of vodka to the melted orange liquid pooled at the bottom. He took them from her, smiling. "Cheers, Pat," he said, holding both cartons in one hand and fishing a £10 note out of his pocket with his free hand, placing it on the counter. "The old man working today?" he asked. "Yep," Pat said. "Get the old boy to knock us up a pizza, would you?" he said. "Bernard," she shouted over her shoulder. "What one do you want, Butch?" she asked in quieter tones. 12-inch Hawaiian, he said, smiling. "Wouldn't we all, sweetheart?" Pat said, returning his smile. "Bernard, 12-inch Hawaiian for Butch." "Pervert," came a soft, muffled voice from the pub's small kitchen. Butch took his change and walked back over to the bench where Trudy sat, shaded under a large Stella Artois umbrella. Taking his seat, he handed the ice lolly carton back to Trudy, raising it in the air a second time. "Here's to Stubby Part 2, he said, smiling, "and to new friends," he added. "To Stivvy and to new friends," Trudy said in agreement, before upending the carton and giving a little shudder. Interesting," Trudy said. "Vodka and Calippo, that's a new one on me." "God, that's good," Butch said, wiping away the orange crescent of syrup from around his top lip. "Shit, should have got a couple of pints in while I was up. What'll it be, Trudy?" Butch asked, rising from the bench. No, Butch, sit down. My round, I know protocol. What would you like?" she asked. "Atta girl," he replied. "Lager. Cheers, Trudy." "Coming up," she said, rising from the bench and taking the empty Calippo cartons to the serving hatch. She soon returned, placing 1.5 pints of amber nectar on the bench. Butch looked at his pint admiringly. "Cheers," he said, raising his glass. "Cheers," she said, clinking glasses with him. "So, Trudy Fruity, how are you settling into our little community?" "Pretty good, actually," she said, sipping her half. "Such a lovely place, and everyone seems so friendly. It's not like London, everyone running around all stern and anonymous." "Posers," Butch said, taking a mouthful of lager. I just can't wait to get started with the aromatherapy and the holistic practice now that I'm qualified. It's something I've wanted to do for so long. I just never felt that London was the right place to do it. Here feels so much more conducive to that sort of thing, much more peaceful, she said. Jeremy isn't exactly overjoyed with the added time to his commute from moving here, but we both agreed that we didn't want the girls growing up in London. I always imagined a place just like this for them when they were young, idyllic, peaceful, she said, as a frown creased her forehead. Well, apart from the railway perhaps, Trudy added, sipping her drink. Tell me, Butch, this Douglas lad, he isn't, well, dangerous, is he? You know, I worry about the girls, that's all. Butch took a big swig of his pint. No, Trudy, you don't have to worry about that. Douglas may be a lot of things, but he's not a nonce. Arse-flashing, railway trespassing, window-smashing, caravan-dwelling little bastard he may be, but dangerous? No, I don't think so. Not quite what I meant, but reassuring all the same, I suppose, she said with a little smile. No, I just love it here. I can't wait to start walking the girls to school in September, she said, nodding to the charming 19th century red brick primary school opposite the pub, resplendent with its quintessential bell tower. And going for walks, getting the business up and running, all of it. I think we're going to be very happy here, she said with a smile. So anyway, that's enough about me. Tell me about you. What brought you to these shores, Mr. Kiwi sheep farmer extraordinaire? Butch contemplated the question for a moment. You promised to buy me another beer after. Okay, deal. Butch took a deep intake of breath and another large gulp of lager. I came here after my wife died back in '84, Butch said, getting straight to the point. Hit and run. The police never caught the bastard who did it. Butch took another deep breath and sighed. It tore me apart. I just couldn't heck it back in New Zealand without her. Everything just reminded me of her. I knew that there'd never be justice and I knew that I'd never have peace. So I did the only sensible thing I thought I could do. I sold the farm back home and I ran halfway around the world. After freelancing for a while down along the south coast area, I came inland a bit and found myself here. Bought the farm in '86 and never looked back. Got fun here thrown in with an old motorhome I bought off a guy down in Kent. His dog had just had a litter of pups. Best freebie I ever had, isn't that right, boy? Butch said, rubbing Finn's belly, the dog rolling under the bench to receive the adoration. And you didn't remarry, if you don't mind me asking. No, I didn't remarry. Kind of got used to the bachelor lifestyle again, if you know what I mean, Butch said with a little cough. And no one will measure up to Trish, he said, raising his glass to the sky. Love you, girl. A gentle but comfortable silence settled between the two before Trudy asked, apparently this place used to have its own railway station. Yep, up until the early 60s, I think they got rid of it. No call for them anymore, apparently. That's not what Jeremy would say. He'd love to be able to get on the train 2 minutes from the house. I think he's a bit resentful, you know. He's the big city breadwinner, you see, and I'm the stay-at-home housewife trying to make a go of her woo-woo hippie stuff, as he likes to call it. I think he'd prefer it if I was just a full-time mum. After all, as he's so fond of telling me on the money he earns, we could afford it. But that's not me, you know. I've always had my own hopes and aspirations, and I'm going to show him that I can make a go of things. Here, bloody here, Butch said. Blimey, listen to me getting all squiffy and brave, Trudy said, checking her watch. Better rein it in. I've got to go and get the girls in an hour. They've already made friends in the village too, and I don't want to get a reputation as an alky with the other parents this early on. Butch drained his pint. You might not, but my reputation around here is already firmly established, he said jovially. Now go and get me that bloody beer. There he goes. Go get Butch's pint of lager. Yes. That's that. That's today's chunk. Join me next time, if you will.
See ya.